right now. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bicycle Advisory Committee's Education Subcommittee meeting. I'm Brian Smith from the Planning and Development Department. So just going over the mission again. The mission is to advise and make recommendations to the commission and the director on issues related to bicycling and in the city, including but not limited to amendments to the bike plan, bicycle safety and education, implementation of the bike plan, development of strategies for funding projects related to bicycling, and promoting public participation in bicycling. And the vision of the BAC is that by 2027, the city of Houston will be a safer, more accessible, gold-level bike-friendly city. And we'll begin with the roll call. Please give an audible present if you are here for the roll. Tom Thompson.
Present.
Alejandro Perez.
Present.
Tracy Alexander.
Present.
Zion Escobar. She said she was driving. Zion, are you still here? Adam J. Williams. Sandra Rodriguez. Christine Anthony Miller. Beth Martin. Trevor Reichman.
Present.
You skipped Lisa Griff.
Oh, Lisa Griff. I'm sorry, I had your I had
Present.
checked your name off already. Jessica Wiggins. Yahaina Mahmoud. Nick Hellier. Judith Villarreal. Amar Mohite. Mike Van Dusen.
Here.
Anna Ramirez Huerta. Nikki Knight. Robin Holzer. And Dr. V.M. McReynolds. And our wait, who was that?
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Okay, got you. All right, our ex officio members, Ian Lavacek, David Fields,
Hi, everyone.
and Juvenal Robles. And other staff members present, I see Lauren Grove and Raina Reed from Public Works, Brandon and Mosley from Planning and Development, and Devin Guevara from ARA.
Present.
Are there any other staff members present? And any other partners? Okay. So the agenda and the slides are available online on our website. And to join by phone is the number 936-755-1521 with the passcode 919-490-547#. Just a reminder, please stay on mute until, unless identified by the chair to speak. If you are calling in via phone, you can mute and unmute by pressing *6. And here's our agenda. We'll have public comment at both the beginning and at the end of the meeting. But let's go ahead and get started with the chair's report.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I've been a little distracted the last several days, as I mentioned to Brian and a few other folks on the committee. I'm going in for surgery tomorrow to have my prostate removed, and I'll start out with a public service announcement to all the men on the committee. Is if you haven't had your PSA checked lately, have it done. It is considered an old man's disease, but I had one guy contact me here today that he's 48 and he had the surgery several weeks ago. So although a lot of times they don't even start checking it till you're over 50, but it's a good thing that he was aware of the possibility and he had his checked and indeed had to go in for surgery. So it's a pretty serious thing, but it's something that's treatable. So I just want to stress that to the men in the group. I did have a couple of good news items I wanted to point out. Zion was on the call earlier. I don't see that she's rejoined us, but
I'm here.
Oh, perfect. Hey, Zion. I'm holding up this article that was in the paper a few days ago. I think it was last week. As many of you know, Zion is the executive director of Freedmanstown, and they were recently designated the first, let's see, get the name right, this heritage agency of Houston. So big congratulations to you, Zion. I'm sure that was a lot of work on your part that will lead to a lot of more work, but it's something that's definitely well for all.
Thank you. We really appreciate it and glad to have your support.
The only other thing I wanted to mention, and hopefully Joe Catrufo will be joining us, because we had some good news from the state legislature on a couple of pro-bike bills that did pass and were signed by the governor, including the crosswalk bill, also known as the Lisa Troy Smith Act. So we'll get into more detail on that. Oh, hey, Joe. Great.
I'm here, Tom.
So great. Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to your report on that. So with that, I'm going to move us right along to public comment.
All right. Well, as of 2 p.m. today, we did not have any written comments to the bac@houstontx.gov email address. So is there anybody on the line that would like to give a public comment via Microsoft Teams?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, this is Alejandro. So I am kind of like, I try to promote the BAC on social media, not like I post on like the BAC education meetings on social media to attend. And I do get questions on there, people posting. I did have one comment about one person. I was trying to look it up right now. Well, not trying to extend my time, but like scrolling through the notifications, and I saw it earlier where, let's see if I can find it. Is there anybody else? I can just come back after. Probably might take me like a minute or so to find it.
Okay. Is there anybody else out there? All right. So, well, Alejandro, we can come back to you at the public comment towards the end of the meeting. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So next we have Joe Catrufo from Bike Houston with legislation updates.
All right, thank you, Brian. So this has been an exciting session. Maybe every session is this exciting. I know they happen every other year, and it looks like we're getting a special session out of this, which will certainly not address anything bike related. But nevertheless, we had 2 bills passed and signed into law, and 2 that died in committee. I'll just go through those briefly. So the Lisa Troy Smith Act, which has received no shortage of conversation in this group and among many members of this committee. If you haven't heard about it, the Lisa Troy Smith Act is named for a woman who was struck and killed in, I believe it was Missouri City. this bill would make striking and injuring a vulnerable user, such as a pedestrian or a bicyclist, or even, as the bill is written, a golf cart user or somebody else using an assistive mobility device. It would make striking and injuring that person a misdemeanor. And if you were to strike and seriously injure or presumably kill, although the language is a little bit vague, somebody lawfully in a crosswalk, that would be a felony. That law, again, as you can see here, it goes into effect on September 1st. Another small victory, I spoke with Robin Stallings about this over the weekend when we were riding from Galveston to Houston. He pushed really hard to expand the definition of bicycle to include tricycles and other adaptive bicycles, such as recumbents that may have 3 or more wheels, hand cycles and that sort of thing. The way the law used to be written is that only vehicles with 2 wheels were considered bicycles. And then, of course, the 2 bills that didn't make it, HCR 65. This was, not the toothiest of bills, but it would have given TxDOT more flexibility around how it uses trail money. Typically, we see trail projects getting built that are generally pretty small because the money gets spread out by the state among many communities. So it's too thin to really be very effective. The idea with this bill would have been to invest in major trail corridors. That one died in committee, didn't really have legs. And then HJR 109, SJR 40, this one also died in committee. This one would have been a pretty tall order, but a constitutional amendment which would have essentially changed the formula that TxDOT is required by law to use as it spends rainy day general funds in transportation. You may have heard, and a couple of groups did a really good job publicizing this one. 97% of the funding that that TxDOT has from the state of Texas is required to be spent on roads, so that things like sidewalks, bicycle facilities, transit, they have to, fight for the scraps, 3%. This bill aimed to change that. Got some pretty good traction, I think, and it certainly captured my attention, and I'm sure many members of this committee. That 97 on roads versus 3 for everything else is, really outdated and needs to be changed. So next time around, I think this ought to be a priority. I'll stop there and try to answer any questions if anyone has any.
So Joe, this is Tom. Did Robin indicate that they would be taking another shot at at either of those 2 that did not make it, or any of the other, another bill that I don't even if it made it even into committee, but what the safe passing. And I know that Bike Texas intentionally did not push for that this time for a number of reasons, but I just didn't know whether you and Robin had discussed any of those bills, whether they'll be taking a shot at them next time.
We didn't specifically discuss whether or not any of these would be taking a shot next time. There's always a chance that between sessions, somebody, Robin, anybody, is able to, meet with a lawmaker who might come around on one of these issues, or God forbid, know somebody who is struck and injured. And that tends to, change hearts and minds pretty quickly. So there's always a chance that one of these could come up again. I think, the way I see the world, I think that this constitutional amendment, this piece really ought to be a priority statewide. I don't know if it got traction elsewhere from advocacy groups in other metro areas or not, but this is one of those hardwired, dyed in the wool sort of things that keeps Texas behind other states. One of the things that most people don't know about. So, when you look at the fact that we're only able to spend up to 3% of state funding on things other than basically highways, that's something that really stands out as a red flag. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely with you on that one, Joe. And it seems like we could build, and maybe if we get started soon, build a broader coalition, with transit advocates, passenger rail advocates throughout the state. Because yeah, it's just ridiculous that that's hard coded, and it really ties TxDOT's hands, even if they were inclined to spread it a little bit more generously. David, I see.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Joe.
No. Go ahead.
David, I see your hand's up.
Thanks, and thank you, Joe, for this update. I had one thought and then one more on what you were actually just saying about a broader coalition who might be interested in this. I think historically there's been a binary conversation about urban versus everybody else on transportation, and everybody else has won, and that is how that funding had been decided in times past. I don't believe we're in that condition as much in the state anymore. I think there are many people who live in many different urban forms who are starting to recognize the value of sidewalks and bicycle facilities in transit. And if we can start broadening our tent to not just the other cities, but more suburban regions, even some rural, I do believe there is more support out there than in past times. That actually wasn't why I raised my hand. There was one other bill that is not a bicycle specific bill that I thought you might want to hear about. I want to say it was HB 445, but don't quote me on the number. It was giving the cities the right to set a lower prima facie speed limit. Right now, as many of you know, the state does that, and it's basically 35 unless you can prove on each individual stretch why it should be less. So for a city like Houston, if we had to do a speed study on every individual street, it is very, very costly and time consuming, plus the signage. There are a whole host of issues. What I was told was this has been brought up over many past legislative sessions and never really got any traction. This time it was the next bill to be moved to the full House, I want to say. And it didn't get its time because literally the clock struck midnight on the night it had to go out. But we were that close to the next step. And if there's ever a bill to be seeing the arc going on the direction of what you're all talking about, this is that one. So, we're hoping next time around we can get that through.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I agree completely, and I didn't know that it had gotten that close. So yeah, it's one of the vagaries of the system, unfortunately.
Thanks for adding that, David.
Hey, Mike, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I can fill in a few blanks there. I worked with some of the advocacy groups that were bringing that forward, and the specifics were that there has been past history where things have not gone well. I think this was a learning experience for a lot of us in terms of how you actually, characterize what you're asking for to the legislature in order for them to accept. Hopefully next time around we'll get a little closer. The thing did die on the floor. The bill being considered immediately before this was controversial, and there was a representative from Houston that had something to say about that particular bill, and that's, he kept talking, and that's why it died on the floor.
That's unfortunate. Thank you for that additional information. Alejandro.
Yes. Yeah, Joe, thanks for all that summary right there. And I'm happy to hear the act passed for the Lisa Torrey in particular. But I was wondering maybe if we can maybe try to draft an email just to follow up with our local elected officials to kind of think of this in the next session. That way we start early and hopefully we get into their ear a lot sooner. And, I guess be able to plan right, I guess, for the future session, next session.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that, I took my cues mostly this year because I'm new from Robin Stallings, and I know Tom and Robin and I had, and others in this committee have all, been emailing behind the scenes about legislation and getting updates and that sort of thing. But I'm not sure what the standard, when people start lobbying and that sort of thing. So I'd be curious to get some more insight, Alejandro.
Awesome.
I think that definitely is something to keep in mind because, I think the jockeying starts long before the session does. I don't know how long before. As I recall, before this last session, things were going on last year as far as lining up bills to be submitted. So it's not something that you wait until it starts for sure. It may be too early at this point, but as to the form and timing, I think that's something that we should remain in conversation with Robin on, as far as at least the mechanics and what his suggestions are. He's got a lot of experience working with the legislature, so I give him a lot of credibility for what he does and for what he doesn't do. I think he's selective in knowing what things it's not timely to do that. So we definitely need to keep after that. Anything else on this topic? Okay, Brian, why don't we move on to the next agenda item?
Okay, so next is the discussion on bicycle users and rider types. Before I give it to Alejandro to moderate the discussion, just wanted to add a little bit of context. So earlier this month, we were having a conversation around how rider types are defined, and one of the more universally used ones is from the Portland Bureau of Transportation. They have updated the definitions, or at least the percentages, over time, but the 4 categories have stayed persistent. So the strong and fearless, those are the ones who will ride regardless of roadway conditions or existence of bicycle facilities. Enthused and confident are those who are comfortable with sharing the roadway with auto traffic, but would prefer their own bicycle facilities. So those are ones who would, be much more comfortable in a protected bike lane, or a less crowded shared street. And then there are the interested but concerned, which is usually the predominant majority of the population, where folks want to ride bikes. They like riding bikes. They have great memories of riding bikes of youth, but they are worried about safety. So they would ride if they felt safer. And then there's also the no way, no how. So those are people who will not ride bikes either because they don't want to, inability, or some other reason. And the Houston Bike Plan, when the Houston Bike Plan was created, during the initial outreach, 83% of the community survey respondents either self-identified as enthused and confident or interested but concerned when it came to the 4 types. So we did use the 4 types in some of our engagement years ago. And Alejandro, wanted to hand it over to you for the discussion on the categories and how the education subcommittee could be involved.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. So do you mind going back to the other slide? Because I think it just occurred to me like where I was trying to get to. Yeah. All right then. So yeah, these are the surveys from Portland, right? And part of the reason why I joined BAC and became an advocate was because when I ride my bike, I consider myself to be, I guess, maybe strong and fearless, I guess. Because I mean, I'll take the lane because I know that some drivers try to basically squeeze in the same lane that you're in just to get by instead of passing you on the left. So that's why I guess you could say I would be considered a strong and fearless one. But when I would ride, I noticed the ones that basically have no option, as basically their mode of transportation. And you see these are the guys that basically or these are the folks that basically ride in the opposite side of flow of traffic, because I understand this feeling where they'd rather see the cars coming into them than getting hit in the rear. And I'm thinking about these folks, basically like, how can we make that better for them where they don't have to feel that way? And how do we categorize those folks that basically, I mean, you think about who does these surveys, and I don't think these would be the people doing those surveys. So I think about those folks and like, how can we kind of reach out to them, or how can we think in their way to kind of make bike infrastructure a lot better? And you know, just identifying like who is the rider, what are the riders here we have in Houston? Because like I mentioned, like I try to be active on social media, and I look at people posting, and there's a lot of mixed views on how they view the infrastructure. A lot of people do like it. Recently, like there was this post on Critical Mass about somebody complaining about the Austin bike lane because it was like a hot day and nobody was riding it. But the comments were like totally on the opposite end, where you're like, people get it and they do like that infrastructure. So I'm really happy to see that people are using the infrastructure that is being implemented with the city and all the work that we're doing here. So I just want to like kind of bring up that conversation again and make sure that we're focused on like, who are we building these lanes and this infrastructure for? Does anybody have any questions or ideas?
It's an excellent point, Alejandro. I remember years ago in Bike Houston where we had a diversity of opinion as to, hey, why do we even do bike lanes? Why do we do bike trails? We just need to teach everyone how to ride, how to drive their bicycle, in the words that are used by the LAB. And that my own take on that, and I was kind of in that camp for a while, but I've certainly left it because you're just not going to get there, and is my thought on it. And it's great that people can do that, and I'm all for it. And I know, there's the new course that's available from HGAC that essentially is along those lines. It's teaching you how to ride your bike the way you would drive a car, and it makes a lot of sense. But as these numbers show, there's an awful lot of folks that just aren't going to get there. So where I've landed on it is we need to create bicycle infrastructure, and it's really kind of reflected in our vision and mission statement that makes biking safe and attractive for everybody. A 10-year-old to a grandmother is where I'm at it, but certainly that's another point of view. Trevor, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just curious who this survey went out to. Did this go out to existing cyclists or people of all transportation modes? Because I find it fascinating that there's more confidence in cycling in Houston than in Portland, according to the survey results, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that too, Trevor. I would have thought the numbers would have been flipped between us and Portland. Yeah.
So to answer the question somewhat, when I was looking into the Portland Bureau of Transportation study, it seemed that the no way, no how, like the 33% was an assumption that was made. And they based the other percentages around that assumption. As far as what we did here in Houston, although I was not here for it, I think in the bike plan there is some more context as far as how many people received the survey, and maybe some of where it went out to. So I'll look into that, and if I can find it, I'll take a snapshot from it and include that to the meeting notes.
Great, thank you.
Same with Portland too.
This is Tracy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just had a comment about the, people riding the wrong way on the street. We have a bicycle club, and I just think that, education is important. So when you have new people that join your club, the more you educate people, the more you will see that people will follow the right rules instead of the wrong rules. But I think it's all about education. And a lot of the bike stores do put on classes to teach you about that. I understand that there are some people that's going to ride their bike how they want to, but the more we reach, the better it will be to the more people will ride their bikes in the right manner.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alejandro, do you have any other thoughts on the topic?
Well, I agree with Tracy's comment, right? The education is like how we reach out to them folks. But I don't know, like the only way I see it is like to educate them is like, because I understand these folks to be like, you know, working class and basically don't have no time for extracurriculars, or I don't know extracurriculars, but like their schedule is so tight that I don't think they could find the time to really take the time out of the day, because like taking a LCI class, you know, that's like a whole weekend type thing, right? And then even a LCI instructor class would be like maybe 4 or 5 hours or something like that. So the only way I can see that is probably just reaching out to them while they're riding. Like if you're not like busy, you got your own way. Because I did reach out to like maybe like 2 or 3 people. Like I had nowhere to go, just riding, and I just like turn around and go catch up and just ask them why they were riding. And most of them were like, well, you know, this is my way. I just moved here, and this is the only way I can get around town. And or, you know, I'm going to the grocery store right now, and it's like, you know, just, you know, it's the weekend, you know, just pick up some beer for relaxing at the house, you know. And so these are the folks that just, you know, I guess for them to educate them would be kind of like at that moment kind of deal. And you know, I ask them, hey, you know, like if I ever see you around, like say hi, or any questions or whatever, I just like, you know, extend myself to that. But yeah, I just think about this because and then again regarding the social media people, most of those folks are like, you know, I take the lane and this is what I feel comfortable with, which is the strong and fearless folks. But I know that's not everybody in this conversation or in Houston. And what you mentioned, Tom, was from 10-year-old to the grandma. I think that's a really good way that I guess we should be looking at this is, you know, having a 10-year-old being safe to ride in the road is basically should be basically the primary, or well, yeah, 10-year-old or grandma is those 2 extremes should be our main focus, right? We're not making these lanes for the you know, the strong and fearless, right? Because they already know how to ride in the streets. But we may run into some issues when we start doing infrastructure on the roads that they're comfortable with, you know, that may be a little bit more. That's where I think the consideration comes into play for them to kind of how we can make that, like, you know, satisfactory for their level, I guess.
Yeah.
Or perhaps putting that information in the bike lane, you know, saying ride this way, or, you know, with the finger pointing in the right direction or something like that, for those casual riders who are not really educated about riding in the street, you know, or I don't know. I think the more, you know, especially if you create visuals for them, you know, some people will recognize, oh, I'm going the wrong way. So I don't know. I just think that it's really all about education. And even if it's, you know, I agree that when you see somebody on the street going the wrong way and you just have a conversation with them, that's that's still a part of educating people, just in casual conversation. So all of it really is really about education, and however we can do that is going to save lives.
Totally,
Right.
totally.
Yeah, agreed. I do have a question for the education subcommittee. Would the subcommittee be open to or interested in possibly crafting a more robust ridership survey? So nothing huge, but maybe something that goes into a little bit more detail as opposed to just the four categories. Um, but something that is small enough that it could possibly be a phone survey or QR code or something that we could put out digitally as well as on a small card. But before we even get to the employment method, would the subcommittee be interested in, working on creating or approving a next level survey? Because I mean, even our data, we probably could use some more updates, since if the last time this happened was during the initial bike plan outreach, we probably owe ourselves some more metrics. What are your thoughts?
Brian, I'm wondering whether that should be part of our next update to the bike-friendly, the bike-friendly recertification, whatever you want to call it, because we're striving to update that. Is it next year or the following year? I think maybe it was for 2023 that we were looking to go back to the league to kind of revisit. Okay, what's our ranking now? And a survey would be part of that, right?
I have to look into it. I'm not certain. And I'm looking at the certification now. So right now our certification goes through 2023. My assumption is that we probably have to apply in 2022. Does
Yeah.
that sound about right? And I can go on the league's website to see if they have some examples of some user surveys or if they're looking for particular information.
Seems like that was part of it, if I remember right,
Okay.
but my memory is unreliable. So yeah, please do check on that.
Will do. And then for the next subcommittee meeting, I can give a presentation on what I found, both one, looking through some of our historic data to see if we've put out any other ridership surveys or if we've drafted anything since then. There might be some ghost in the share drive here at the city somewhere. So I want to look through that information, and then I also look at the bike league and see what information they have on ridership surveys and give a presentation on that come July, August. That'll be September's education subcommittee meeting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a survey is part of it. I remember seeing, pages of comments from the survey that was done. I thought as part of the original bike-friendly, certification that we pursued, several years ago.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other comments, discussion on this topic? Brian? I'm sorry, I just saw you.
I want to make sure. Okay. All right, my hand is back down.
Yeah, you're fine. All right, why don't we move on?
So next up, we're going to talk a little bit about People for Bikes and their city rating and how they've rated us here in Houston. So People for Bikes, similar to the league, has a rating system, but People for Bikes, they give a weighted total. You get a score of anywhere from 0 to 100. 80% of that score is based on the quality and connectivity of the bicycle network, whether or not they deem it high or low stress, and also can the bike network connect you to key destination. And all of the network analysis uses data from OpenStreetMap. And the network score is a score from 0 to 100 as well. And the community score, which is 20% weight, is based on a community survey that they put out on ridership awareness and overall feel of the bikeway network. And as of last week, they had a database of 660 American cities and 170 international cities that all received a score. And where the city of Houston looks is not good. So currently we have a score of 18 out of 100. The network score, which we was only received a network score of 9, the community score of 53, but that goes to show how the weight plays into factors when they give the overall score, because that 53 only is 20% of the score. As far as compared to other cities, out of all 767 cities, we're in the 18th percentile. We're in the 11th percentile of large cities. And as far as other Texas cities go, we are right behind Austin and San Antonio, but we are ahead of Dallas. And this map here shows the Houston Stress Network according to their network survey. Everything in red is a high stress street. I also noticed, to add to the context, so this is the inner loop, the 610 loop. So they also include the freeway and toll network in the overall network analysis.
Right.
And one other additional kind of point in context, I did do a 1-to-1 comparison with my default city, which is Detroit, since that's where I originally came from. And Detroit almost seen the exact opposite. So a lot of their local road network was seen as low stress. So there may be some opportunities to adjust this data accordingly. So for improving the score, Tom and I were talking about, bringing this to the education committee to talk about what we can do and how we could possibly improve. On the staff side, it looks like there's a way to update their OpenStreetMap data, as well as complete a city snapshot. So that's something that I'm willing to look into, to see if that's something that the city has done before, or if there's a way that we can kind of get involved in. And these are the top 5. So hand it over to you, Tom.
Yeah, if you could go back to the prior slide, please. So, I think, to me, I was surprised at the network score, and particularly that, like, this was all red except for, looks like the Bayou Trails, and I see the Columbia Tap Trail, some other things like that. But, I wouldn't consider myself the brave and fearless 1%. I think I'm more in that, whatever that next category is. But I feel pretty comfortable riding most streets, that, not like Westheimer, but most streets inside the loop in those nice grid type neighborhoods. And I'm a little surprised, and maybe you can shed some light on that, Brian, this open streets thing that you mentioned, because, a lot of these neighborhood streets are pretty comfortable, they're low traffic, and I don't know what they've based their stress ratings on, but I mean, or you look up at the, look up in the heights, north of I-10, or even outside of 610, you go into Garden Oaks and Oak Forest. So I think they were pretty harsh on us, and it'd be interesting, and maybe we should contact them, to kind of get some context from them. But so, I'm doing a little bit of whining here on the scores that they gave us. On the other hand, on the community score, they have like a breakdown of 4 criteria under that, as I recall, and one of them was ridership, and they actually ranked us higher than I thought we would be for ridership. And, I don't know if that's because of the weekend warriors, because we do have a lot of groups that do ride around town on weekends. I was thinking more in terms of, commuters and so forth, because we're always way low on that, as percent of ride share, compared to cars, obviously. So little surprised on the scoring. I guess maybe I shouldn't dwell or stress too much on that, and maybe focus more on the next slide that you had, Brian, that was showing what do we need to focus on for improvement.
I can, before I go, kind of look back at that slide, I can give some comments on and some context on OpenStreetMap.
Okay.
So I'm bringing this over here so everybody should be able to see it. This is OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap, in a sense, is the Wikipedia of the map world. So it is a community crowdsourced map when it comes to editing and updating the map. On a personal note, before I got hired at the city and I had a lot of time on my hands, while I was looking for work, one of the things that I did in my spare time was update OpenStreetMap by verifying the locations of hospitals and other key sites. But I have the cycling, they also have a cycling layer, and you can't really see a lot of it. It is most of the blue lines, some dotted lines, some solid blue lines. So you can see the difference between the two. So this looks to be what they think of as far as our bicycle infrastructure is going. And they also base it, they also use this map along with some 2010 census data. So I think if we were to have a conversation, either have a conversation with them, or if there's some way staff, we can go in and just give them some updated information, because you can already tell that a lot of the bike network that exists in the city right now is not shown on this map.
Right.
That's very little blue there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what really caught my attention. I mean, is essentially, Houston is a sea of red with a little bit of, well, yeah, that's the one that, yeah, you can scroll that one. It just looks back up to the map. I can't remember where that was. Maybe, yeah, that one. Yeah, I mean,
this
it's
is on their website.
yeah, me, that's just way, way too harsh.
Yeah, and we didn't really get a lot of points when it came to access, as far as the network score was concerned, and then going down to the community score. Those are the different individual factors that Tom was talking about, with awareness, network, ridership, and safety. Going to improvements, from a staff standpoint, I think we are close to hitting some of these metrics. So when we look at the prioritization that we're finalizing up right now, looking at connecting the bike network to transit, which was something that the BAC asked us to emphasize on top of including that into the prioritization. And then the conversation earlier with making sure that this group continues to advocate around the around that House bill that around the prima facie speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one point on that, I do wonder if apologies if I missed something. I've been in transit, but if it's impossible to make those streets like Tom mentioned in the Heights or Garden Oaks or Montrose or all the many neighborhood streets that even the interested but concerned might be willing to ride on.
Right.
If the prima facie speed limit is too high, it can't be classified as a low stress street.
Oh, is that part of their criteria, Joe?
That's just looking at this 5 ways cities can improve. I wonder if, like that item on the left, speed limit, lower residential speed limits. If the speed limit citywide, it may not be signed on every neighborhood street, but if the speed limit citywide is over a certain threshold, then maybe it's impossible for them to turn a red street blue. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there as a possibility.
Got it.
Yeah, that might be the case. I think they have some documents on their website that talk more about the methodology behind that network analysis. So I can look into that.
And just for clarification, my understanding is that the default speed limit is 30 miles an hour, unless posted otherwise. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah. And so, I think a lot of the thinking was behind that bill that didn't make it was, give cities the rights to make it lower than that, like say 25. For every mile an hour, every 5 miles an hour makes a big difference in the seriousness of a collision. So yeah, that would be interesting to know if that's, what's driving their rankings of our network. But these other criteria, I think a lot of that's covered within our prioritization criteria, isn't it, Brian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking at critical gaps,
Right.
looking at investments in underserved neighborhoods, even the more protected bike lanes on high-speed streets. When we think about some of our larger thoroughfares, and how they how we are putting, looking at putting high comfort protected bike lanes when we're installing, no matter where they are. I think so. We'll get some of the higher speed streets by default.
Right. Well, to me, there's a couple things about this. On one hand, I think they dinged us pretty hard, and so it reinforces a lot of outsiders' preconceptions about Houston. Oh, it's just a car town. It's a horrible place to ride a bike. And should we care about that as cyclists? Maybe not. Maybe it's more of a Chamber of Commerce issue. Hey, quit giving us black eyes. So to me, my takeaway on it is this area here. What do we need to focus on to improve, regardless of what your ranking is? And I'd be interested in hearing from people on the group. Is this important? Should we care? To me, what we care about is what do we need to focus on to make this, make Houston a better place to ride, regardless of who's looking at us and what kind of, rankings they may use.
Well, like if we're going for the gold standard with what is it, the League of American Bicyclists, I think we should just focus on that. And then once they start getting that accreditation, then I guess people for bikes would probably update themselves, because they're gonna notice, because that information looks really outdated. Like seeing all that red is like, like you mentioned, the Heights area, like there's a bike lane there. How is that red?
Right.
And even the North Line train, like the Metro light rail, like all of that should be kind of a slower street. So why is it still red too? And how long has the light rail been around?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Alejandro. We should stay focused on the LAE rating. That's what, that's in our mission, and that's what, but these things are, it's interesting to see these other criteria. And again, to me, the guidance is, what do we need to focus on to improve?
I think as long as we know we're making progress, that's what matters the most.
Yeah. Right.
I think there is some peril with any sort of over reliance on a third party validation to tell us that we're doing a good job. I think that's true across the board in any field, but I do think we could use this low score as another reason among many other known reasons to justify any specific improvement that we aim to achieve. So this is potentially a tool, another way to just show urgency around the problem.
Yeah, good point, Joe.
Looking in the chat box, I see Lisa said, agreed, Tom. I'm not a super strong rider, but I feel comfortable riding in neighborhoods that are all red. Referring to the map as well.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, any other discussion on this topic? Brian, let's move on.
All right, so open up the floor one more time for public comment. And Alejandro, did you find that message, the Facebook message?
I believe they may have erased the comment because I followed up with like an invitation to the subcommittee meeting and asking them to pose their question on the recording. But I mean, if she asked, I think it was the person that asked was, if I can remember, it was like, why are we building the bike lanes if no one really uses them? So I mean, that's a very broad question to really answer, and considering that the recent post that I made about critical mass, or the recent comment I made about critical mass, where somebody posed the same thing and like the feedback was like overly positive, basically like like, what are you talking about, really? But I guess another remark or introduction I'd like to make. So as we know, we've been looking for a HISD contact. And I've been people, kind of think of me when they think of bicycles, and, whenever they come into a conversation with somebody, I get forwarded contact information, who I should meet, and, I should say hi to this person. This person's name is Marta Patricia Jaimes. She's almost in the same, I guess, category, almost. She has a nonprofit as Renee. I know we all know Renee was wanted to present. I think probably he will be presenting in the future. But Martha, Martha is founder and president of Biking for Excellence. She has roots to Houston, and she has the ties to HISD. I'll let her introduce the organization and what she does, and maybe she can, like, now that she's connected, maybe she can join us in future meetings, and depending on what her interests lie, either education, infrastructure, or be maybe part of the board or the committee. Martha, are you available? Are you online?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Martha Patricia Jaimes, and as Alejandro just mentioned, I am the founder and president of Bikes for Excellence. What we do is we award bicycles to fifth graders, and I emphasize award because it's not a free-for-all. They have to earn it. And I've been doing this for the last 15 years. The first year I did it all by myself, and it was just 5 bikes that we awarded. After that, I had an amazing gentleman by the name of Lester Smith, who literally supported Bikes for Excellence, and he would literally tell me, Martha, how many bikes do you need? At our biggest event, we gave away over 700 bikes, 4 elementary schools, and a couple of after-school programs within Houston. Moving forward, he stepped down, and I took over, completely over. 4 or 5 years ago, where now what I do is I fundraise and literally ask for donations. The last 3 years, 4 years, we were just doing 1 school. This year, 2021, I wanted to do 2 schools, one being in Houston and the other one in Freeport, which is Brusselsport ISD. What we do, and we do it in Police Week. I am an educator, former Houston police officer, and currently a reserve police officer in Brazoria County. So I like to do it during Police Week, because one of the things that I try to do is bridge the gap that exists between our community and law enforcement. I want those kids to one day be able to remember that there was a police officer out there that gave them their bike, that was out there with them celebrating their accomplishments. So that's one thing. The other thing, I feel a bike gets you from point A to point B, just like your education does. So being an educator, education is big. So those are the things that we do. We have also teamed up with Harris County Public Library, where they are at our events and they give the kids books. So again, they have to earn the bike. We look at 3 criteria. We look at attendance. Since pandemic, we look at engagement, because the student can be present, the computer's on, but he or she is not paying attention. So that's where the engagement comes into play. good attendance, because if you're not in school, you're not learning. And then the other thing is, because I have the police part of it, we look at no gang affiliation and good conduct. I don't want to know that you're in the office because you cussed out a teacher today and yesterday you hit somebody. That's not what I'm looking for. We do give them a helmet because of safety. They get a helmet, a lock, a small sling backpack, and a water bottle for them to place their water, beverage, whatever. And that's what we do. I've been in HISD for over 20 years, so I know some people here. I believe in education. I want to extend my program, and I want the kids to utilize their bicycles. We normally give them a 24, 26-inch bike because I want them to be able to utilize that bike moving forward, not just that summer. And, you know, with the safety piece of it, you know, we give them the helmet, hoping that they do utilize it. I know that doesn't always happen, but we're giving it to them. It would be nice to have perhaps maybe a flyer or something that we would add to their bag with safety tips that you guys seem to have. I think that would be good. We have not had our program this year because I have not been able to find bikes. I've been struggling with that. I needed 241 bikes this year. I am short 49 bikes right now, but we are going to go ahead and move forward and do our bike program at J.R. Harris Elementary. Those are 64 students, I believe. We're going to do that program on July the 10th, and I would love it if you guys came out to visit us to see what it is we do so that you can understand us a little bit more. Our website is available. Facebook, it's Bikes for Excellence Foundation. The website is the numeral 4. And, you know, it's just about the bicycles, the kids moving forward for me. That's what it is. I would love it if, you know, our conversation continued. I would like to be part of y'all and y'all to be part of us. We seem to have that same connection when it comes to bicycles. So in a gist, that's who I am and what I do.
Awesome. So yeah, I think I do know there are a couple organizations that are kind of donate bikes. I can link you with those later, or if you can mention it. There's Recycled Cycles of Texas, I think, and then there is another one called what's the ministry organization? Free Wills Ministries, I think. Do you have any idea of that one, Tom?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that name. I know there's, I can't think of the organization now that they're focused more on immigrants and getting bikes for them that Bill Mintz is associated with. I can't think of the name of the organization though.
Thank you.
Martha, if you can,
I think
could you put the
there's
website?
another organization.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's another organization, iCycle, that does almost exactly the same program. They target schools, and you may be able to develop a partnership with them. I don't have the contact information, but they do have a website, iCycle. You can talk to them. They were formerly Elson Moore, and they've given out probably 100,000 bicycles over the course of 10, 15 years.
Right. I'm also aware of, I think it's called Bikes and Elves or something like that. They also award bikes to 5th graders. They do it during Christmas time. And I know the kids have to write an essay or something to that extent. And then I also know Navidad en el Barrio does bikes during Christmas, and they also have to write an essay. So yes, there are quite a few out there, so it's a good thing.
When is your event again, Martha?
We usually have them in May, which is the second pretty much the second week, National Police Week, which is in May, second or third week in May. And we try to do it. What we used to do in the past is we had a big function. Motorcycle Club came out to be with the kids, and then we had law enforcement out there. And we had a luncheon, which was catered by James Coney Island. Pandemic stroke took place, and so we did last year, which was our first year having to do it that way, was like a drive-by. And Councilman Gallegos was out there, Senator Alvarado was out there, Representative Ana Hernandez, now Judge Trevino, Precinct 6, Chief of Police from, Freeport, and then other HPD officers, other constables from Precinct 6, you know, they were helping out and loading the bikes onto the kids' vehicles as they were driving through. And we did that in June, again, because of the pandemic, we could not get the bikes in on time. And that's pretty much how we're gonna do it this year, both in Brussels-Port ISD in Freeport and the one we're doing in a couple of weeks here in Houston. We do fundraise throughout the year. We usually have our gala at Irma's Original. That was in October. I'm trying to see if we can move it to August or September. But we have our gala there. We have several fundraisers throughout the year. And then, like I said, I just, you know, knock on doors, talk to people, see who's willing to donate. I take anything from, you know, $1 to my biggest donation this year was $5,000, and it was coming from someone in Freeport. It was one of the, I think it was LNG that gave me $5,000. Senator Alvarado always supports, whether it's monetary or in person. Councilman Gallegos, the same thing. I know both of them very well. I went to school with Carol Alvarado, and Robert Gallegos is my neighbor and friend. So they always have supported my program. So I know what you guys are doing. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting last night in the neighborhood, and Robert Gallegos was talking about, you know, some of the trails that are taking place, that are happening in the city.
Yeah, this is where we talk about the stuff like that. Awesome. It's nice meeting you, Martha. Like formally, I guess we just met like last night. We were all excited about talking about bikes. Oh, how did you get into bikes? Just to ask.
Like I said, when I came back, when I left the police department, I wanted to give the kids something tangible. You know, it's nice to give them popcorn parties and a movie day, but I wanted them to have something tangible. And then, like I said, my mantra, a bike's going to get you from point A to point B, just like your education. So that's where the bike came into place.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Alejandro, could you please make sure I'm connected to Martha via email after this meeting? And Martha, what I could do is we have a BAC interested parties mailing list that gets the invitations for all of the monthly meetings. So I can add you to that list to keep you up to date on what the BAC is doing, agenda items, and so on.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and put in my email address right now.
Oh, awesome.
Well, Martha, thank you for what you do. I think that's just a terrific outreach program, not just because it promotes biking, but certainly promotes the behaviors that we want to reward among a very impressionable age group. So that's just terrific.
Thank you. And one of the reasons why we select fifth graders is because that is, you know, they're getting ready to go into middle school. Middle school historically is the most challenging time of a child's life. So if they can kind of relate to us and we can relate to them, and they know we're there for them as mentors, the better.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Okay, are there any other public comments? I don't see any hands up.
No, there's nothing in the chat.
Okay.
Martha did put the website in there, bikesforexcellence.com, as well as her contact email.
Okay.
I encourage you, I invite you to visit our website so that you can have a better idea of what it is we do.
Awesome. And I'll add the website to the post-meeting email that I'll send everybody in the next day or so. So we can move on to announcements. Some from the city. So we have a new page on our website that is dedicated towards announcements, news, construction, detours, events, anything that's outside of the routine planning cycle for bikes. So we'll usually just have the map and, you know, just individual projects. This is for all of those things that are happening in real time right now that are coming up. So please go to the website. I will be updating this as events come and as things happen. In between the last two meetings, wanted to give two updates on the MKT. So the MKT Spur project, which was connecting the MKT Trail to White Oak Bayou, that Houston Public Works gave a presentation on a few months ago. It received a concurrence of awards, so the city is getting ready to award the project. So please stay tuned because within about 30 days after we award the project, we're going to begin our public engagement process about it. And we will keep this website as well as our social media up to date on those dates. And then construction to repair the MKT bridge is expected to start any minute now. I believe Houston Parks Board's public announcement said it was expected to start June 2021, but I will defer to Lisa if she has any more details. And this is the website for the Houston Bike Plan that has those announcements and details. So we also give a link to Houston Parks Board's Bayou Detours map because they have done outstanding work at letting everybody know where upcoming construction and detours is. And we just wanted to share that resource instead of replicating it. And speaking of upcoming meetings, so Houston Parks Board and the Spring Branch Management District are having a virtual meeting June 29th about the Spring Branch Trail Phase 2, which is a proposed 1.8 mile trail in Spring Branch. So the flyer is listed on the screen. The website, as well as how to register and to get more information, is up there, and I will be adding this into the post-meeting email. Are there any other announcements from any of the other BAC members?
Ryan, could you explain to me what a concurrence of opinion is, or award, or whatever it was?
So I'm going to lean on my friends from Public Works to see if they can help out. But from what I was seeing in the email, I think it means that we have the go-ahead to start the process to get the award out. Raina or Lauren, could y'all provide more details? I'll follow up and see if we can get some more context added to the email. Oh, Raina's trying to get her mic working right now.
Got it.
So Trevor just put in the chat, very excited about the MKT Spur. Just a heads up that on that map, it's placed in the wrong location. It shows as it being in position outside of the 610 loop. Okay. Which map, Trevor? Is that the map on the link?
That was on the Parks and Recreation map. I checked it about an hour before this meeting, and at that time on the zoomed out map, it shows it as being outside of the 610 loop.
Okay. I'll write that down. See if we can get that, work with them to get that updated.
Good afternoon.
All right. Hi, Raina.
How are you doing? Sorry about the technical difficulties. So yes, we are in the beginning stages of this, but I can provide an update via email if someone wants to drop their email in the chat.
Yeah. So, Raina, if you just send it to me, I can
Okay.
add it to the email and send it to the rest of the BAC.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. I appreciate you giving the update. Any more announcements? All right. So our next meetings list. So we have the BAC Committee of a Whole meeting, July 28th at 2:30. It's going to be a very, very robust meeting. We're going to have Renee come back out to present about Wellness for Wheels. We're going to have 311 present on the new system, on the new reporting system. So we will have a bunch of great information to share. Infrastructure Subcommittee in August 25th, Education Subcommittee September 22nd. I also want to let everybody know we are kind of in a transitional limbo regarding the Open Meetings Act and continuing virtual meetings. So the verdict is still out. We still haven't heard word on committees meeting virtually, if there's going to be a hybrid, is it going to be an all or none in person? And also, we don't know when that switch is going to occur. So please monitor your emails. I'm going to keep consulting with legal and our team here to find out what we have to do, and I'll make sure that everybody is informed in a timely manner about any adjustments. We're gonna.
Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome. And those are the end of the announcements. Tom, if you have your closing comments.
It's a short meeting this time, but we certainly strong in content. And thank you for, again, as usual, pulling everything together, Brian. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. I assume it'll still be virtually, but as you said, that could be changed, right, Brian? I'd heard things like maybe targeting September at the city for, people getting back to more of an in-person mode, but things are certainly very fluid.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out. Right now, we have at least the virtual infrastructure together to carry us through as long as we need to, as far as Microsoft Team links and things like that. But I'll keep reaching out to legal routinely to find out for certain.
Okay, great. So without any further ado, thanks everyone for a good meeting, and we look forward to seeing the entire committee late in July.
Good luck on your surgery, Tom. Trevor
Thank
wishes
you,
the same.
Alejandro. Yeah, appreciate
Also
it.
received a good luck from Trevor in the chat.
Yes, thank you, Trevor.
All right, stop recording and see everybody next month.
Okay, take
Later, Tom.
care.